Well, hello there, and welcome to this brief overview of the Social Impact Mastermind, a transformational journey towards anti-racism. My name is Anita Russell, and as a life coach, speaker, and independent author, I specialize in personal transformation and creating brave spaces for conversations about race. So, for my brief time with you, I'd like to share two things. First, the evolution of what I call the CAIRO question. And second, why this work is so important to me. So, let's get started with the CAIRO question. Multiple streams of experiences came together for me in June of 2020, shortly after the birth of my second grandson, CAIRO, in March, and just days after the murder of George Floyd in May. Both my daughters and a nephew were preparing for a Black Lives Matter protest in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in early June. I walked into the room where my younger daughter, Olivia, was sitting and noticed she had a solemn look on her face. I sat down next to her and we had a conversation. In that conversation, we realized that our family represented three generations of protesters: my mother, myself, and now my two daughters and a nephew, all protesting for exactly the same thing: our birthright to freely and peacefully exist in the skin in which we were born. The first generation was my mother, an activist who lifted her voice against injustice, fighting for civil rights, welfare rights, and basic human rights. She became a powerful presence in my hometown of Homestead, Pennsylvania, a suburb of Pittsburgh, when she took a strong stance on behalf of Black students during the initial merger years of the Steel Valley School District. The second generation was my own. I recall the defining moment in my personal identity as a young Black teen. So let me take you all the way back to the spring of 1971 when I left Homestead Junior High for summer break. Then in the fall, entered Steel Valley Intermediate School, the first year under forced integration. I entered the new school year as a ninth grader. Shortly after arrival, I stood outside of my new school one particular day in a large open field in the presence of police cars with flashing lights and emergency vehicles. You see, a bomb threat had been phoned into the school and the school evacuated, all because people like me were in the building. Black students who were perceived to be beneath the privilege of being in the classroom with white students. It was the first time I personally felt hated as a melanized human being. Standing there in that field that day was like a Sankofa moment. Though I walked onto the field as one, I stood on the backs of millions. Unlike my ancestors, though, I didn't traverse the middle passage of enslavement to get here, yet I found myself in the same environment, determined to rob me of my true identity and my humanity. Unlike my ancestors, I wasn't greeted with whips and chains, yet the intention to bring me under subjection was the same. I was simply expected to fall into my place at the back of the line. And all of this meant I had a choice to make: either let this environment, these people, and back of the line expectations turn me into an unrecognizable version of myself, or be like Harriet and resist. Years later, I came to realize that that was a moment of raised consciousness for me. In that Sankofa moment, I realized I did not have to allow myself to be defined or redefined by anyone outside of myself to fit someone else's definition of who they thought I should, could, or would be. That my sense of identity as a human being must and should be cultivated from inside of me. then outward into the world. Now my two daughters and my nephew represent the third generation, and our conversation led Olivia to pose the CAIRO question. Will CAIRO have to protest in his lifetime once again for the birthright to freely and peacefully exist in the skin in which he was born? That question led to my second independent book project, Cultivating Change from the Inside Out, the Power of Being Human. And one particular statement in the dedication of the book reflects the CAIRO question. It is dedicated to my grandsons, Zane and CAIRO, whose lives I pray will be free from the need to protest for their right to exist as humans in Black skin, and whose dreams will not be systematically broken or deferred. So why is this work so important to me? The CAIRO question and the Cultivating Change book added a whole new dimension to my life coaching practice, and I created the Activism through Coaching model. So here's my rationale. Activism is synonymous with cultivating change, and cultivating change is synonymous with life coaching, and life coaching is synonymous with personal transformation, and personal transformation is synonymous with accountability and responsibility. The coaching process is about deconstructing yourself for the purpose of self-discovery and ultimately personal transformation. It's about diving deeply into your thoughts, ideas, beliefs, and assumptions, and about what it is that emerges in your words, your actions, and your behaviors. So coaching for personal transformation takes place in that space between where you are and where you desire to be. To speak in the vernacular of Michelle Obama, this is your becoming space. So coaching requires three things. It requires courage, conversation, and relationships. So my objective in developing the Activism through Coaching model is to create a brave space for conversations specifically about race, personal transformation, and anti-racism. Racism is a disruptor of health and wellness in mind, body, and spirit. When racism is present, society is hurt because something other than health and wellness emerges. Inequity is directly related to social determinants of health, those conditions in the environment in which people are born, live, learn, work, worship, and play. Those conditions that affect quality of life outcomes and risks. Our dimensions of wellness in mind, body, and spirit are directly related to these social determinants. I think we can agree that a good environment is one that supports health and wellness as a function of human growth and development. Now let's shift the conversation to personal transformation and how it relates to anti-racism. In addition to dismantling racism through laws and legislation or politics and economics, I believe personal transformation also plays a key role in manifesting social change. Racism is all around us. We live in a racialized society, reflecting the dual nature and structural inequality of America. A coaching approach in a group mastermind setting enables me to guide participants into discovering the thoughts, beliefs, ideas, and assumptions that lie within themselves, and recognizing how it shows up in their words, actions, and behaviors, particularly when interacting or choosing not to interact with people who are different from themselves. I present participants with the CAIRO question. then take them on a journey into themselves by sharing my own personal experiences and the history and personal narratives and experiences of other Black people. I firmly believe in the idea of storytelling to challenge the dominant narratives of revisionist, romanticized, or mythologized history disguised as truth, resulting in miseducation. Counter stories highlight the experiences of real people, exposing the underlying problems and untruths associated with the dominant narratives. So I use my coaching as a platform for personal transformation towards anti-racism. It's engaging people in conversations around the CAIRO question. It's driving towards cultivating change from the inside out. And that, I believe, is the real power of being human. So I leave you with these words from two great human beings. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who once said, "Now I'm not one to lose hope. I keep on hoping. I still have faith in the future." And Nelson Mandela, who once said, "Great leadership is generative." That is concerned with the care and growth of future generations, helping them live with dignity and raising them to new levels of morality and motivations. So congratulations on taking the first step towards the Social Impact Mastermind. The next step is to apply for a discovery call with me. There's no obligation or commitment to apply. It simply opens the door to a conversation about your interest in joining the mastermind. So grab the link to complete your application, and I'll talk to you soon. You can also learn more about my coaching work and publications by visiting my website at theplacetosoar.com. This is Anita Russell signing off, and I thank you for your interest in my work.